me today? Step 4. So if you caught up with the 1, 2, 3 we've already done, you'll realize that at step 4, you'll have more energy for more movement in your life. So we're going to talk about 3 points on the step 4 on movement, because it is medicine for us in our life. It moves things through the body, gets rid of things, encourages us to maybe condition better if the movement's not going so well, and or if we're in pain or finding ourselves stuck in rehab trying to get over or through an injury, maybe on the IR list. Keep going back to that, maybe, I don't know, but it's movement that is the medicine. It's just, what are you doing? What type of movement are you doing? And it's important to figure out where your starting point is. And this is my domain. I have my most fun here. I've actually created an online training course for deep core training so that your movement patterns can get better and you can find progress in what you're trying to do with what you love to do, actually, right? It's all about keeping with what we love to do. So for warming up, now we have been so bad at warming up over the years, and it's not until more recently where I'm actually really kind of in the face of my client as they're warming up and engaging that for them. You need to break a sweat. You gotta break that sweat, or I'm sorry, you are not warm. You're not gonna break into the tissues that you need to in order for you to even progress, okay? 10 to 15 minutes, even with classes. I may not feel like a warm-up anymore, but I'm still warming them up, okay? And so, yeah, they've broken the sweat. And so whatever I do with them at that point, it's way easier. They are more balanced. They're more focused, in tune. And each week you can see it's just coming along better, right? So I think if you're not getting results, I think that you got to look and see what you're doing for your warm-up and actually your cool down. And to be honest with you, I could probably do better cool downs. The way that I work with my clients in movement training online, I find out their starting point, and then I build a stretch and strength program design so that the stretches, which are never, I'm going to say 99% of the time, are not static. They are stretch and strength. There's a science behind it. Maybe you've heard of it, PNF. Proprioception is incredibly important. And we were born and raised and evolved using rotation. It's not all straight. Okay, we have side patterns to do, we've got rotation to do, we've got cross patterns to do, and not just with the legs, we need to do it with the arms and the head even, okay? All this stuff here with the cars and how we don't have to turn our heads anymore, you know what, that's awesome, right? But is it? Because now we've got people who can't even turn their heads very well. So it goes with heavy doors as well. That's another major problem, these heavy doors. So everyone's reaching for that handicap button, just kept on pressing that handicap button. Right? Why? That door should be able to be opened, right? No, we're getting weaker and weaker because of the things that are making it more convenient for us to feel less pain or less suffering, I guess. But in the long run, is it? Because are we still doing what we love, right? I hope so, because we can do what we love until ages into a life. And we've seen proof of that with 9-year-olds still in marathons, for example. So, right? We've got to keep moving, and it starts with a warm-up and a really good cool down. So I've created this program design that starts with the stretching. I can see what the point is. My client needs to open up so that when I do the primal pattern movements with them, hopefully they're working through that with me, or maybe they're on rehab stuff and I'm kind of getting them out of that gap, you know, that happens, and into patterns of movement again, and then into their sport if that's what they're wanting to do, or maybe it's gardening. Or maybe he's a farmer or she's a farmer, right? They need to like lift heavy stuff and dig and twist and all kinds of stuff. So it's not just sports and athletics. We're talking dance. Dance is athletic. Football, dance, golf, right? It's all athletic. Walking can even be athletic if you're practicing your walking. You can put it into an athletic kind of feel to it. So it can be really good cardio to get good walking in. If you're using a lot of the muscles you're maybe not using right now and you have to relearn how to walk, that's part of the stretch and strength program design. How is the gait? That's the 7th pattern of movement that we're going to talk about today. So off the path or a little bit, I hope you got the point that you need to break a sweat in your warm-ups. Okay, you start a little easy, bring it up. I talk about zones actually. 3 zones. The first zone is easy. It should feel easy. Your brain should be like, or the athlete in you should be like, this is not cool. This is way too easy here. You know, get moving. If your brain is doing that, you're at the right warm-up level, zone 1. This is where, especially for seniors who are learning how to exercise, this is where the brain learns what it is it's supposed to be doing or coming up to do better and better in zone 2 and 3. So it's slow, it's easy. Your brain is getting bored and frustrated. You want to go get to it. You get zone 1, you hit zone 2 is where you talk and you work with the technique, right? So this is where I'm talking about technique. The client is performing the exercise well with the technique. It's a coordination or a dance move in dance class. You have to go through repetition, and then you've got zone 3, which is where you've got your core engaged in zone 2. You get to zone 3 where it feels uncomfortable. And you actually get to the point where you're like, how much longer is this going to go on for, right? That's 80% or above heart rate range in that zone. Zone 3 actually is 85. That's where it starts to get really uncomfortable, 85% of your heart rate. So now I'm diving into heart rate training, but that's another whole thing on the side. It's a very, very important thing to make sure we're doing, so I can share more on that on the challenge coming up over the next 6 weeks. So week 4 will be the exercise week where I jump in and share more. So zone 2, which I didn't mention, how it feels. Zone 1 feels easy. It needs to be 3 minutes, at least 3 minutes, maybe 5 if you're just getting into exercise. Zone 2 is, it feels challenging but comfortable. So challenging and comfortable, we are aerobic, high fat burning zone. We could talk to somebody, right? Very comfortable, challenging. You can do it for a very long period of time. Okay, then that's why we can work on technique and we can actually get the heart rate pumped up just based on working on what we're doing. There'll be more muscle recruiting, which means your heart rate will have to go up. So once you get to that place where you start to feel you're getting out of your comfort zone, slightly uncomfortable, it's 75% of your heart rate training zone, right? Slightly uncomfortable is like, okay, whoa, we're about to go into zone 3. Tighten up, people, let's go. We're about to take off. At zone 3, things get a little uncomfortable. You're going above 75%, 80%, and that's where you're feeling like, oh man, okay, this is not so fun anymore. Your brain stops talking to the next person beside you or wherever you're doing, and you're focused and hammering in. Now, eventually you start to wonder, what the heck, how much longer is this going to go on for? And that's all depending on the base and foundation that you have at your fitness level, right? So you can hold zone 3 depending on how fit you are. Your VO2 max, this is how we start to train. How quickly can you recover after you've worked hard? So after zone 3, we look at zone 4. I don't talk too much about zone 4 right now with people I work with, unless it's an athlete that's pushing into a 90% heart rate zone. That 90 to 92% zone 4, it really is about 10 seconds long. I mean, you're out, like the oxygen's done. And then you can't even work harder. When you're in zone 4, and there's just no more working harder. You are full out. That's why it's a very short window before you go breathless. That's the key word for 4. So zone 4 is breathless. Zone 3 is uncomfortable. How much longer is this going to go on for? Zone 2 is challenging but comfortable. Long time there if you want. You can hang out there and work on things. Zone 1, and zone 1, you've got easy. Right now, zone 1, you come back down. That's your cool down. Don't skip the cool down. This is where the body gets a chance to just bring everything back to your center. Maybe you need to do some calculating on what just happened. I don't know. But I think it's important to remember it's not just the warm up, it is your cool down. Start easy, challenging but comfortable, then hit it. Okay? Just be uncomfortable for a period of time. Don't go breathless. And it's honestly, before you go breathless, your legs are going to start shutting down. Like the muscle fibers are actually going to not have the oxygen there to do that. So, You gotta really be like I said, you're a pro for the zone 4. Okay, where are you at, honestly? Because, you know, some people can feel like their elbows are straight and they're not. Some people can feel like their knees are straight, but they're not. And on this deep core training I do in the free section, the free part is 20 minutes, the very first part is 20 minutes. It's fun. You get in there and you figure out where your starting point's at. You're going through a 9-point flexibility scale. So I put on that video Dr. Roccabato, who was a physiotherapist, and I learned about this gentleman through, obviously, Paula Check. Now, this scale that he's created is actually amazing. It gets things real clear. You know, when you go through the points, there's 9 points, and I'm not going to tell you them now. So when I did the testing for that, obviously I was in the section where I need to be working on strength. Some people who are really tight, they need to be working on stretch. And the type of stretch you should be doing is what I'm teaching here, is stretch and strength along the philosophy or the science behind PNF stretching. So you can dive in that. It's all about our proprioceptors, hands and feet, and the pathways from the brain to the muscles, if it can access certain muscles. And when it doesn't access certain muscles, that's what it's going to bring you down the scale to be more of a flexibility person who needs to work on flexibility as opposed to strength training. And it's tricky because you still want to keep the strength in there, but you go back into a stretch program. What happens to all that strength? Maybe you felt like you were gaining something from, and you probably were. It might have been making you too tight, right? So where are you starting from? I could go on and on about this because I love this topic. So where are you starting from, and really just start there. Even if it's just a little bit you're getting in, you will be able to get the program I have designed here through a book, which is all of my clients' homework basically is in that little book. I did it on my computer. And the thing is, it's really great because, and I'm glad I did it because I had the opportunity to see a client. It was amazing. A senior sitting on the floor, okay, after one of her sessions. She wanted to make sure that she got all of her homework down right. She had her book open and she had all these notes because I had left a blank space on one side. So she had all these notes that she had made during the 10 sessions that she had with me, so that she can now go off now and just do the work. And so when she's ready, she'll come back, we do another 10 and we continue. So it's very helpful to have something like that if you are needing to do the stretching, the flexibility more. Okay, because we've been told to stretch in a static way, and I have this belief that if we're going to stretch, then we still need to strengthen. So why can't we work on strength while we're doing the stretching? And it turns out, of course, that science says that's actually the best way to do it. So that's going to take you to in patterns of movement. They're called primal patterns of movement, and there are 7 of them. I think it's important to just check in that you've got the 7 patterns down, and then for the VIP members or the members that come in a little bit more private environment, we start to talk a little bit more about how to deal with, you know, inflammation in the gut will prevent core training to the deeper levels. So it's important, the deep core training that I've done, we test the transverse abdominis. And the transverse abdominis is like our God-given corset. It runs around us at the deepest of the levels here. We've got the internal obliques, okay? We've got the rectus abdominis down the front all the way. Front side, I talk about front side, core, right? But it's not just what you see in the mirror. In fact, what you see in the mirror looks better when you train your back side. So in the deep core training, I teach my own thing, really. I mean, I've learned a lot and I've just added more. So the core isn't just here. It goes all the way behind you, it wraps around, and it's got, I actually include the lats as a core muscle and the tricep in the back. And we've got the glutes. Anything that's attaching to the pelvis, core muscle. Okay, so we really do have to expand our knowledge on what the core is all about. And why is it important when I go to reach for something that my core engages, not just tightens, it pulls up, wraps around me so I can reach and not tweak. Okay, that's so key. When we're doing things we love, there's something in that we're gonna have, if it's physical, it's gonna need twisting, you know, probably reaching and bending, maybe throwing even. So just checking in with your deep core training and testing the transverse abdominis. You can test it and do all of that on the training online. And it's in the 20 minutes. I think I put it in the 20 minutes there. I actually talk a little bit more about that so you can test yourself. And again, if it's not working that well, then it's incredibly important that you train it to work well. And so there's a process to this. There's an isolation training where one muscle is doing its thing. We're teaching the brain pattern there. There's one muscle training. You integrate that one muscle into more than one muscle. So there's a movement pattern starting to come about. So I'd go maybe to a one muscle contraction, but then there's going to be something like a bridge where there's more than one muscle working at a time. And then you stand up, and then there's a more dynamic action coming from the first, the isolation, the integration, the third one, there's dynamic action happening. When there's a lunge there, right? Is that gonna, so it's really important for figuring out where you're starting and then building a program design that starts isolating things. Again, I'll talk about it, but that's the training ahead of the deep core 20-minute free part. You get into the exercises, kind of the stuff that I use in the book that will help you integrate your core step by step, just like those steps I explained, right? Isolation, integration, and dynamic movement patterns. 7 of them. And I'm going to go through them right now. 7. Okay, the first one is squatting. We do all the 7 movement patterns happen throughout the day. We don't even realize that we're doing them until we hurt ourselves. We go, oh yeah, it was when I bent forward and I twisted, then I tweaked. So pattern 1, squatting. Now I use the arms because you can feel the whole body integrate when you get your arms above your head. Like the core just automatically pulls in. I mean, the belly button you draw in and everything pulls up, right? You're reaching up. Now, we're also getting stretching there as we're doing that with the arms. So I like to go back with the hips. For the active seniors who are really tight, I use a chair. So they're sitting down, right? In the action of squatting, we do it, like I said, all day long. The second pattern is lunging. So we lunge. I mean, Gardner's got to get down and do his thing and get back up again and move, right? I got to get down here. I'm going to lunge down here and get that, right? So this kind of stuff, bending, has got to be coming from the core. It's a little tricky, and it's like a dance move. You got to kind of learn it slow. Zone 1, zone 2, technique. Zone 3, okay, go for it. Okay. So the levels of the classes can be a little bit different that way as well. Modifications are always given as best as I can do. But they're, like I said, there's being honest of where you're at. And my job is to give you the cues of when you're doing it this way really well, you can graduate to this level. So it's good to know that you can go to the next level, but how do you know when you're going to go to the next level? So that's my job. My job is to go, yeah, you're ready to graduate today. Or it's your job to learn the cues I'm giving you on the form and technique to graduate yourself. And if you're not doing what I'm sharing that you should see yourself doing before you graduate, then you just don't. You stay at that level where you're at, even if someone beside you is going to the next level. You just, this is, the progress is you, not the person beside you or to look good. This is about you progressing you. So I'm here to give you the cues to keep an eye on yourself and being honest with what's going on. And so that way, you'll get the cues right. One day it happens, it's so awesome, you'll light up and you'll be able to go, bam, I can do one leg now. Awesome, without falling over. Now, had you done the one leg now moment, had you graduated yourself because you wanted to keep up the person beside you, right? When we went to the one-legged dynamic movement pattern and you weren't able to do it, right? Will you ever be able to go to that next level then if you didn't give yourself the opportunity to get better at level 2 before jumping to level 3. So I'm a bit of a tough trainer that way. My perfectionism, while it's not healthy, it has been a gift to be able to break exercise down the way that I've been able to break exercise down. And it's the cues I'm giving that can really help somebody lunge better, squat better, right? So if someone's lunging like, or squatting like this with their knees buckling in, what are we gonna tell that person, right? So I have to give people cues, tell them muscles they're squeezing, or not squeezing, or what, you know, so there's a lot of technical stuff that goes along with this. This is a big commitment to dive into, because what happens is your biomechanics start to do these movement patterns better. I'll get back to what they are in a second. Then you're going to progress when your movement patterns get better, and that takes repetition. Repetition is the mother of skill, so you have to give yourself patience and just keep doing the homework, keep going back, right? So third one is bending. So after lunging, they're not in any order. These are just ones that I kind of come up in the order they come up with. So bending, right? So that's it's one movement pattern there, but that movement pattern is going to be in a lunge, right? It's going to be get something out of there. That's bending too. Going back this way is bending. Bending is going sideways like that, right? So that's very, very important to get the bending stuff. So then there's the twisting. That's another primal pattern movement. Twisting, right? So throwing is twisting. Getting off the floor or walking on your hands and knees, believe it or not, to get something on the floor is twisting, right? These primal patterns, they are ingrained in us because it's been survival. These patterns helped us survive over eons now, right? So when you're in the right biomechanical position of these movement patterns, you're going to be able to move better and better. The brain really needs the biomechanics to be very spot on almost in order for the pathway from your brain to your muscle to get triggered, to be used. So for example, if I'm overusing the front of my hips because I'm tight here, then I'm not going to be able to access the muscles here, lower abdominals, to be able to get the back of my hip engaging to walk, for example. So all of the energy, the pathway from my brain to the muscle has been going into the front of the hips, right? So when I'm walking, I'm actually walking with the front of my hips as opposed to being pushed forward by my backside, glutes, backside core. So it's important to learn, again, where you're starting at, what's tight, what's not tight, and all of that, and getting it into your own program. So the pathway from the brain to the muscles, that's a very, very important one. We have to open it up further and further for the brain to be able to access, okay? This is also, like I said, biomechanical. So you will start to feel like maybe you've grown half an inch. I'm not kidding you. Once you start getting all this figured out in your movement patterns, you are going to feel taller. Your legs feel straight here? Oh yeah? Oh, and what about here, right? So once you start straightening your legs more, you get your back stronger and your chest is more stretched out. I think I just grew an inch just by doing that, right? No kidding. And you start feeling alive again, because when our posture is as close to neutral as possible, we can literally feel like we're floating on air or walking on air, you know, like we're being held up by our core, backside, pushing our hips forward when we're walking. Keeps our gait. So now, where was that on the 7? So that was the twisting. So we've got the squatting, lunging, bending, twisting. Now there's the upper body, pushing, right? Now, pushing, depending on what you're doing with it, in one hand, you got twisting happening. All of a sudden, it's now twisting too. It's not just pushing, it's twisting. So if it's 2 hands, there's push-ups, right? That's still front side core. You're doing your push-ups there. And then there's pulling. So you've got to have an action where you're pulling something. Again, if you're pulling on one thing, that's going to be a twist. There's going to be a twist there, right? So there's lots of little intricacies that happen, but the twisting, the bending, oh gosh, it's time. It's about bringing the upper body together with the lower body in the center. Pushing and pulling, the last one there on the 7 is the gait. And that is really, really key, especially if you start working with all these different stretches. When you're walking, this is where you can start to strengthen things up, and you can start to reteach yourself how to walk with your backside, pushing the hips forward. And this is not going to look ridiculous. And if it does, well, I'm not surprised. It looks normal to walk around like this, and you know, no. So if it does look ridiculous, well, one day we'll all be walking normal. Hopefully, one day down the road we'll be walking normal. So we're not stooped over or having to use a walker, right? We've learned from them, that the angels and their walkers, that maybe standing up most of the life during the day and working and doing our days and not sitting and sinking into things as we age, probably a good idea. On that note, I'm going to leave you. I'm running upstairs. I'm so excited about lunch today. Balls, real quick before you go. Anybody got one of these in the closet and you don't know what to do with? I'm not surprised, because you know why? Do you know where these came from? We can all thank Paul for this. I certainly do. This started in Europe, Sweden, I believe, and they're smart physios over there. And this is like back in I don't know, Paul. This is in the 90s. He was probably getting into this. So he goes and does his training over in Switzerland or Sweden or somewhere in Europe, and he dives in real deep. He goes to the best of the best in the world for this stuff. So he goes in and he learns a lot about the ball, and he realizes that this ball is not just for physio, actually. And so Paul ends up in gyms across the world, and his little ball, he started using these balls in the gyms. And people would just think he's absolutely crazy, right? Like, what is this person doing? I mean, he would get on a ball and balance on a ball, right? There's a lot of things you can do on a ball. You can even throw weights on a ball while you're balancing on a ball. But the issue is, most can't even sit on a ball with one foot off the floor before they fall off. So the issue is learning to move first. This is very dynamic. And why it was on physio, in more of a physio world. Now it's been brought in masses, thanks Paul, into all of the gyms or even to your homes. And it's looking like this, dusty, and this one feels dusty. You need to learn how to use it. This is an incredible exercise equipment tool. It's really incredible. But the thing is, you need to learn how to use it. It's so fun too. And like I said, it's come from a world where people's bodies can handle this thing. A box gym? No, not unless the gym's got a ball-specific class that is teaching people technically how to use this thing. So if you are one of these people and you have your ball that's been sitting there for maybe 15 years, 10 years, maybe more, and dive in, because with my work here, even there's some, I don't even know if I've put any into the book, but dive in, because you will find me throwing some videos on with the ball. And again, it's basics that you need to learn, and then you can just go on an adventure and find different people doing ball exercises. But it's the foundation. I'm here to lay that foundation for you. So you can go out there and just have fun. You're having fun, not hurting yourself. Okay, pass the ball. We use a stretching rope also. I love the foam roller. That's another great one. And I use the blocks and weights too. Okay, and a yoga mat. This is just for your information if you're getting excited to dive into the live classes that are happening weekly now, Monday nights, 5:30. Yay. Okay, so off you go. Practice the 7. You've got, you've written them down, maybe or maybe not. But are they all in your program? Check on that. And again, dive into the 20-minute freebie and find out if you even should be doing strength training and throwing weights around you right now. Or maybe you can just take a little bit of a time off with some stretch and strength stuff, which the strength keeps your strength engaging if you're doing it correctly.